To start, I created a jacket using the pattern by the Avelia pattern off of Mood Fabrics. I have linked that in the description below. So in this video right now, I'm taping together all of the pattern and I'm starting to cut them out. And I'm doing this for all of the sizes until I can narrow which one I need. Materials are Insel Bright for the main jacket portion. And then in this video, I show the lining fabric for my mom's jacket. This is the patterns that I'm using the front, back, and sleeve. Here I'm gonna have scissors, measuring tape, and some snips, pattern weights, lots of batting. Dead bodies worth, really. I found out recently those are Lobster rings, sliders, and D-rings. Outer fabric by OtterTex from fabricwarehouse.com. And I bought 9 yards. This is 10 yards worth of nylon zipper and zipper tape and lots of thread. I used serger machine thread because that was the most I get. And yes, I will be ironing forever. Turns out I had to re-iron throughout this whole process. So this was a worthless clip edit. Well, it was indeed half decent. But right now I'm cutting out my mom's actual jacket pieces, for her size. And I'm also reinforcing the size with tape. I ended up going with the size, I think 14-12 on the Avelia pattern. Again, it will be linked down in the description below from Mood Fabrics. And this helps makes the jacket. And I'm working through the sleeves. Thank God for time lapse. Here, I thought it'd be a good idea to look at and make sure I have all the pieces that I need, including the zipper placket, which I also cut out off camera. And I have all of the scraps that I need paper that I need to, recycle, compost, I don't know, but I have a shredder nearby. I also wrote down on each of these pages, or rather the patterns, of how much I need for each one of these shapes. It came out to be 4 layers worth of batting, one of those layers being Insel Bright for the main front and back, and then for the rest I used 100% cotton batting. So just listing them out here felt like it was a good idea to just have a plan of a path forward. And you will see me write every single line down for each and every one, which I should introduce to you the brand itself. So, and linked down below, the whole concept of this jacket was that my sister wanted to travel to Vegas using a more affordable airline, and well, quite frankly, they don't do all that well with carry-on. So what I've learned so far in the process of making this jacket was that it was even more important to understand how we can negotiate saving money while also being able to make this jacket affordable. I later realized it was not affordable. Very much spoiler alert. Towards the end of the video, I will go over everything from materials, what I used, if I were to change anything, mistakes I made, as well as what I would do differently. Also, any arguments I have for going on ahead and either just buying the product or recreating the product yourself. And maybe some ideas on how you might be able to recreate the product itself if you are willing to be more flexible about materials and certain costs. So for this layer, I'm not going to quilt this down. I'm not going to quilt this down to this batting layer because Miss Client, my sister, wants an inside pocket here, and she just wants a regular rectangle. So I'm going to go back and go back and sew a pocket on here with the green fabric. This will be done the same on the black version of this. It's just green and pink is easier to see on camera. So I'll be back. In this video that I've sped up by about 3 times, I went on ahead and started to create the front and back pockets. So the pocket sizes will be approximately how much a 6 or iPhone 14 would fit. It was the largest phone I had on hand, and that's why it's long enough. So I would assume you should double that plus include about 1 inch to 1.5 inches worth for seam allowance. Here, if you want to see the zipper tape and see how I constructed the zipper tape for the pockets, all the pockets throughout this video, I have 2 videos down below from when I constructed those pockets and showed you how I figured out how to make those zippers. Pretty much YouTube was my best friend, but this is how I figured it out and what worked for me. So for the pockets, I created for the front pocket, I created a 6x7" template, seam allowance included, including a cover for the flap over top. And then found a thread. And here we have the 4 self fabrics, kind of a front back of the green, and then 1 layer of batting in between each. You can feel just a little juicy, but not something a needle can't go through. And the same thing for here, the front pocket. And so I'm going to sew this together in a sandwich, flip it around, and then we'll do this for both sides. And then for the top, I have to cut a new zipper for it. The bottom, I'm going to create a zipper for the top. And then once that zipper is sewn onto the front of the fabric of the front piece, then I will also sew it to the pocket. And then hopefully, between tucking the seam allowances underneath, I should be able to have a nice top stitch on everything, enclosing all raw edges, and we'll have a front pocket. We'll do this for both the green and the black jacket. Okay, top stitch the tops, and then now I'm going to make the zipper. I haven't put the lining on just yet, but I'm going to repeat this on the black jacket. So see how each one has a pocket, open, close, flap over. I don't know if I'm going to add like a button on to that, but pretty good. And so after I've already applied the pocket, as I said earlier, I'm going to put the lining attached to it. And then with this, we're going to sew all of the other pieces together. We have the front, the sleeve, 2 sleeve arms, and the back. We'll decide if I'm going to put a tag or not, but if that tag happens, it will go right around here, along with care instructions, because I'm pretty sure my mom would love to have that. I figured I'd step in and add one more thing before I go into how I applied the sleeve head here. Initially, when I first created this jacket, the black jacket version had me pretty much hand sewing all of the inner lining, and I used a quilting binding for this. And this was really long and drawn out process. It took me a minute to realize that it would probably be better to go on ahead and bind as I went. So as you see here, I have the shoulder heads sewn together with a ribbon, bound together. And then I went and applied the sleeve head. So as I am applying each of these parts or section of the pattern to create the jacket, I am also binding them together. This helped so much to help reduce how much hand sewing I had to do. I had to do some hand sewing on mom's jacket, but when I had to go and do the black version of this jacket, I was hand sewing for literally a couple of days. And it was to the point where I was sewing literally at work. During a meeting, of course, not through anything important or high level where I needed something of extreme focus. But I thought I'd add that here. Okay, so now that this binding has been done, now we're gonna add the sleeve head to here. And then I'm gonna pin all the way around with everything. You can gather them together if you'd like, if that's what makes it easier for you. But because there's so much thickness, I have to use the clips rather. And luckily there's this fold here that's going to tell me where the center is. And then so I'll work my way around, sew this in, and then add the binding. Not to worry, I didn't forget to bind this. My mom is going to have a collar, whereas the black version is going to be collarless. So this is just to allow me space to be able to install that collar, and then I will bind it accordingly. So be back with this sewn in for both the left and right sides. So now the inside of the jacket is enclosed. We just got to trim some threads off here, as you can see. But all of these are now enclosed. I used a ribbon I already had that was about 1.5 inches in width. So if you decide to do binding closure this way, look for ribbons that are somewhere ballpark between 1 inch to 1.5 inches in width. This one was around 1.5 inches. Yeah, about 1 inch actually. And yeah, I went with pink. It's got a pink color gradient, so it gives some interest to the jacket. As you can see here, close. So it's lighter pink, and then the color gradient toward a purple pink on the other side. So now I'm going to work on not necessarily this zipper portion yet, we'll get there, but we're going to work on the bottom part of the jacket bag that will attach to here. Haven't quite decided yet how the pockets arrangement are, but I will post any templates if I create any into the description box. So while they're not perfect, these are the two main pockets. Each pocket has, each pocket has like an inner pocket that will be attached. So I'm assuming either a laptop bag or additional clothes or something to be separated that needs to be. This is a main pocket, another main pocket right here towards the front, right inside. You could put stuff like small flats or additional toiletries. I could have made it taller, but it's pockets. Nothing wrong with extra pockets. This one, has two front pockets, maybe some additional toiletries, some underwear perhaps, and then another inner pocket. And then these two are the main big pockets right here. So now I'm going to iron flat this, and with some Tailor's chalk, I'm going to mark off all of the pocket locations. And right now we're just going to make sure everything is centered. So if it's centered, the higher likelihood that I'll be able to fold it in and make it fit the jacket itself. Be right back with that. as my frustration kind of ensued, I ended up deciding and realizing at this point that I needed to have separating zippers. So I ended up using 2 sleeping bag zippers in order to create the part that separates the bag portion from the jacket. And then I bought separating zippers for the front of the jacket. Pink for this green jacket on video and black for the other jacket. It was a wild goose chase. I went and visited 3 different Joanns, and thank God one lady at one Joann was like, let's help you find one Joann that has the number of zippers that you need. And now I have extra sleeping bag zippers, so I guess maybe one day I'll create my own sleeping bag and camp out with the leftover fabric. But until then, I'm good. Throughout the video, I mentioned that I also had a black one I was working on. Wait one moment. Here she is. This is also another black one I've been working on. This is of a different size. I made one for my mom and one for my sister. And both of these had their own issues. So whatever I learned on one, I applied to the other. So for example, one thing that might not be as easy to tell, but definitely if you look close enough at some of the stitching, I had to repeatedly do the quilting over and over again. As a matter of fact, the back had to be recut, and so as well as the lining had to be recut so I could do the back. I need to practice doing better on closing in seams, but this is a pretty good job. I'm gonna sew that down. See, the next thing that I learned on here was, now it was pretty much a lot of improvement here. So unlike my mom's, or the one you saw on the other jacket, I already had this webbing. And so this webbing definitely sped up the process in terms of making straps and making these D-rings. And these D-rings are supposed to be able to allow flexibility to turn into a book bag or a crossbody messenger bag situation. And if you don't mind like pulling it through the top two, which I don't fully suggest, but if you want to make it a shoulder bag, that is possible. Another thing that, this is an improvement on the pocket template, but the flap here could have been longer. And then also an improvement on the zippers. You'll find that that improvement was applied here. See how all of the zippers are like properly enclosed, and then this is a whole lot neater. So I was able to zigzag stitch over everything, which made containing all of the batting and stuff a little bit better. On this side, on both of these sides, but even then I still kind of struggled with closing in the zippers fully. So there's always improvement to be made. And that's on this jacket. Let's see, the main one, the one you saw throughout the video, mistakes and all. Collars are gonna be something I'm gonna have to continuously practice on. Like, this is a little too see-through for what I like, but considering my time constraint, I used what I had, and this is what I got. I could practice making collars better. The directions is pretty good, but it's not to standard. Same thing with the pockets, you know, finishing them off. Now, this is where it's a lot more obvious I was learning how I was going to construct this whole bag. So this is a lot neater, and you could tell what I learned from here, I applied to the black version of this. But on this side was when I was like, oh, like a template wise, size wise, they were cut almost exactly the same. But in terms of how to finish the edges, that's where they differ, and it was a lot of struggle. Still applied the same zipper close off method that did make things a whole lot easier. The primary differences between the two in terms of finishing. So what I learned on this jacket was, in order to assemble this more easily, I had to first assemble the parts, like the shoulders with the, you know, the open sleeve head, or, you know, with the sleeve head, or the shoulders themselves. I'm sewing that first. And we're sewing that first because in here, this probably is one of the things that took the longest on these jackets, was that I had to hand stitch nearly all of the encasing, the binding, in order to make it look neat. And that was a long process. That wasn't hard, but it was just long. And, you know, I could eventually I could just sew on it. And that's why some hand stitches are neater than others, as you can see in there. But I still had to go back in because, you know, maybe the seams were more revealing than what I'd like, or so on. And so when I constructed this jacket, I had to hand sew all of the binding to close off the finished edges. And I realized very quickly that wasn't going to work for my time constraint. I followed through with it because it was still able to be neat and it could still look good. And plus my sister wanted it collarless, so finishing this off my machine was a whole lot easier. But what I learned was, first you assemble the shoulders, bind that off by machine. Bind this off by machine after you've assembled it. Then you apply your sleeve head. You know, just the sleeve head, you know, don't close anything off quite yet. And then bind that off next. And then close this off almost like an L going into the sleeve. And then close that off. And what ended up happening as a result was that the assembly process for making the two jackets, let me zip this up so I can keep everything together. Which made the assembly process on this jacket a whole lot easier. So this is what happens when you assemble the sleeve head first, okay? And then you assemble the arm head, the shoulder first, then assemble the arm head, then close off the side seam and the arm seam. That made the assembly process so much easier in terms of finishing this off, so to the point where all of this binding is done by machine, except for here. I ended up missing the binding with the collar here, which is fine. That's cool. I just had to sew that in, you know, by hand. There's always more I feel like I can improve on this. For example, the original design I had originally like some sort of rows of buttons down here and a button placket, which would allow for some level of like size closure. But considering, you know, if you have a bigger chest or, you know, maybe a little bit rounder tummy, you know, this would accommodate that a whole lot more easily. But I didn't get a chance or nor had the time to do it. And then in terms of the straps, I just stored that into the pocket right here. That's the strap right here. I tried my hardest to match all of the major findings and stuff to the theme of this jacket. So the collar is pink, the lining is pink, the D-rings are pink, or rather rose gold. The straps and the hook you just saw, that was rose gold. So this gave a lot of pink accent to a very green jacket. And yes, so this is for her. I'm going to overnight ship this to my mother. Hopefully she likes it. And then I'm gonna do the same for my sister. And then I can finally, next weekend, clean up my apartment. Because this project puked up everywhere. Because there's a whole lot of parts to it. So thanks for watching, and I'll get back to you. So, to tie off the end of this project, if I were to give a final verdict on whether or not it would be appropriate to recreate this jacket from the brand 1920 of convertible jackets and convertible wear, the answer would be no. Mainly because the cost of materials already, if I did not already own them or got them thrifted or cheap somewhere, is already high. Lining fabrics on average can cost anywhere between $8 to $10 a yard. And to buy the outer fabric, because I knew I was going to mess up, and I did, would also cost about $5 per yard. It can be more affordable, but it usually only goes up from here. Aside from all of that, if you were to recreate this project, do know that you have to prepare for a budget of between $200 to maybe even $300 for this kind of project if you were to buy everything new and for yourself. Also, be ready to spend long hours quilting and making it your own. And finally, if I were to give the justification for why I would do this project, it was because I love my mom. And I love my two sisters. I really hope my sister and my mom had so much fun while they were in Vegas wearing these jackets. I am so glad that they liked them. I 110% would do it all over again just for them. And for my other sister. She said no, but I would do it for her too. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Get back to you. Bye.